everyone, welcome back to another episode of CMO Weekly, brought to you by Open Fortune. Open Fortune, changing the marketing game by putting ads into fortune cookies, distributing them through 100,000 restaurants in over 30 countries. In a world where consumers are seeing 3,000 to 5,000 ads a day, Open Fortune is helping your brand break through the noise. So thank you to Open Fortune for making this episode possible. All right, I am super excited because today I have a special guest with me, Sean Vasquez, joining me live from the SBC Summit here in Fort Lauderdale. Sean is the president of Pechanga Resort Casino, the largest and most successful tribal casino in the country. He has received awards like the NCAIED Top 40 Under 40 Award, which recognizes emerging indigenous leaders in business, and the Poets and Quants Best and Brightest Award, which recognizes the 100 most accomplished MBA graduates from top business schools worldwide. And if that wasn't enough, he founded his own clothing company, Bosque Clothing, a unique lifestyle brand that combines Southern California influences with indigenous aesthetics. Thank you so much for being here.
Wow, I don't know if I can live up to that intro.
Well, you've done it already. You already lived up to it.
Yeah.
First, I want to talk a little bit about this clothing brand. First of all, did I
Sure.
pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, Bosque is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So did this all start because it's just so cool that it's kind of out of the realm of what you're doing on a daily basis?
Totally.
Did that start getting into the world of working with the, tribal casinos, or is it something that came after that was, inspiration from that work that you did?
I think both. So I grew up on the reservation, Pechanga Indian Reservation, and sharing our culture and our aesthetic has always been part of who we are. I think a lot of indigenous communities want to tell their stories. And when I came up out of undergrad, I had the opportunity to participate in an internship for the resort. And I was doing press releases, for boxing matches or giveaways or whatever it was. Out of undergrad, I went and I was doing financial research products for an insurance company called Mass Mutual. I didn't enjoy that so much. I mean, I learned a lot, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought it would be. And my older brother at the time, he was living in Southern California, and I had moved up to San Francisco for undergrad. They said, you should come down here, you should live down here and really take in some of the vibes. There's such great things going on. So I moved down to Orange County, and I had the opportunity to learn how to shape surfboards.
Cool.
I know, something crazy out of the box. So I stopped doing financial products research for the insurance company, and I learned how to shape surfboards, sand, glass, paint, all these cool things. And I fell in love with the action sports culture of Costa Mesa, Newport, Huntington, and I just really lived and breathed it. And I got really into doing that. And then after a while, the man who was the head of that company said, "Well, can you do these other products? We're making better margin on clothing and that sort of thing. Because if you make a really good surfboard, it should last,
Right.
So I started doing that for the company, and I thought, well, I didn't grow up surfing. What better way to tell our story through our aesthetic and through the lifestyle and combining that? There's really nothing out there like that at the time. So I combined what I loved and who I am together to create Bosque Clothing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is it something that you still actively work on a lot?
I wish I could say yes.
Yeah.
I kind of deferred it for now, and it's just kind of a passion project. Ever since I've taken on the mantle of this big job and joined the board, it's really been my entire focus has been on this.
Well, maybe that's something that will come back full circle, and
I'd like to hope so. And even if I don't monetize it, I think just the creative process has always been so healing in its life for me.
Yeah, I think it's a really good therapy outside of work.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the work that, not that you don't enjoy your other job, but it's that, like you said, it's a passion hobby.
Totally, and I can do it, and I feel that, what do you call, like flow state, right?
Yeah.
Where you just get into it, and you're designing things, and it's really nice.
That's so cool. Well, so you mentioned something interesting when we were talking, that you were a marketing intern at Pechanga.
Yeah.
So what is that? I mean, gosh, talk about a full circle moment. You started as an intern there, and now you're the president. So tell me, how does it feel to kind of come full circle? And, was that experience from your internship something that actually helped now with this new job?
Yeah, I think it did in a lot of ways. And I gotta say, when I became an intern, the structure of it I found kind of unwieldy. It was like untethering. They had a concept for what the program should be of internships. And while I was there, I kept thinking, man, I just don't feel like they're utilizing me effectively, right? And I wanted to be challenged more for what I was doing. And I didn't think they were really investing in that way. So by the time I was done with the internship, I had lobbied to the people, the leaders ahead of me, say, you know what if I did a project, to kind of something you would actually see real return on your investment while I'm here? Because I'm going to go back to school and you're not going to capture any of this. So my whole thing was I was talking about, and this was 20 years ago. So I was talking about sustainability then.
Wow, okay.
I know. I was really on the vanguard of that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I was thinking in terms of us being indigenous stewards and how it was important. Little did I know there would be so much value and so much growth and opportunity, and not to mention the economics of it. It has completely changed. There are 3 courses in business school that you wind up taking, especially when you go get your MBA. One is ethics, one is leadership, and one is sustainability. And I'll save you the course load, but ethics is think about the right thing, right? And then you should probably do it. Leadership is do the right thing even when you know it's hard or unpopular.
Right now.
And then sustainability is, hey, if you do the right thing, it can actually be really profitable.
Right.
So I guess in a way, back when I was an intern, I kind of had some values that carried me in the right direction that way. So I submitted this project and I was able to present it to the board before I left. And I also presented a side project more in line with gaming and promotion that I thought was really fun. I was really into a radio program at the time. I know it sounds ancient.
No, it doesn't.
But I had created a cross-promotional and I had reached out to them and I thought how we could build this ROI, and I created a pro forma. And I did all these things and I had submitted to the board. I think they were really surprised, like, wow, you had time to do this?
Well, and as an intern?
As an intern, yeah. I was 19 years old. But honestly, I think I was just fascinated by it. So I left, I went to undergrad, and I came back. I'd always kind of stayed in touch with the, operations of the casino.
Mm-hmm.
Not fully seeing what the challenges were, but just kind of looking from the outside. And I was always going to quarterly reports with my grandfather. That was a big thing on his list for me to do. And while I didn't always fully take it in the way I should have, at least I had a somewhat of a base competence of what was happening.
Right.
So if you're asking me where I am now to then, God, I think I would have been truly surprised.
Okay.
It's more than I could have asked for.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in this current role now?
5 years.
Okay. What I know, and we were just talking about how we just had Sally on the podcast. She was talking a lot about some of the challenges that she faces when she's talking to, casinos, is that everyone is really hoping and waiting for iGaming to be legalized.
Right.
But we're a bit worried about, the in-casino, experience going away. Is that something that you all talk about, or is it much more of a strategy focus to just continue to get as many people in the door as we can right now and worry about that when it happens?
My entire focus is, and I think this is kind of what's lacking in the discussion, right, is there will always be a tension between digital space and land-based.
Sure.
But there's an inherent advantage to land-based, right, that we're not talking about, especially as you pioneer into that digital realm.
Right.
For us, my job has been to make sure that we're investing heavy in technology and making sure all the suite of the tech stack is up to level where it should be.
Yeah.
And when it does usher in gaming, especially in our state, it'll probably be something that we're pretty close to in terms of competency and ready to roll out effectively. And I have to say, anything that happens in California, obviously it has to be led with the tribe's focus as the provider rather than just a participant.
Right. What do you find? Are there other challenges that you all currently face right now within, let's say, the marketing space of trying to get new folks in or the same folks to just, retain? What are some of the hurdles that you find?
That's a great question, because we're right now in the precipice of a generational shift, right? You're seeing a lot of your cohort, your traditional gamers who sit in front of the machine or go to land base kind of age out. And you're asking yourself, well, how do you start, amping up qualities that'll be attractive to millennials and older millennials, right? And some of it, suffice to say, is kind of happening on its own. I couldn't really tell you what that exact alchemy is, but there is something to congregating and being social that is lost in a digital realm that is catered to in a physical space.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest asset. What we learned tremendously during the pandemic was that there is so much currency to being near people. And the connection point was so valuable. Even if you see people that, you don't like, you just want to see people and you want to connect on a basic human level. And I think there are ways that we can attract more people in terms of a social aspect to bring them in. And honestly, I think there's ways that land bases can start moving towards digital, so it's not that big of an adjustment, more of a gradual on-ramp.
Right. When we're thinking about that, how do we also bring in, the fact that your brand is deeply tied to the tribe and wanting to bring that story and that experience in as well? Is it important to do both, or is it truly focused just on, the money-making aspect of a casino?
I can only speak for our tribe. Our tribe has always been about leading with quality, taking care of the customer, and telling our story at the same time.
Yeah.
And we try not to differentiate the two. We held our ancestors in such high regard, and we hold our community in such high regard. So when people participate or they come visit us, we kind of feel them as communal, right?
Yeah.
It feels as though they're joining us in our family. So to that regard, we always try to give them as much quality and as much care as we can. I don't think there's always a tension about, well, how can we extract more revenue from this or that? And I can only tell you, when it comes to our ethos, it's value first, quality first. We are not about, do one more coat of paint on it. No. We have to wow and entertain our guests because they've invested their time and effort to travel to see us and to be with us, especially when the market is heavily dense with competition. We want to make sure that we're rewarding them with that faith that they put in us.
Do you think that's one of the main reasons Pechanga is what it is? I mean, it is a massively successful casino in Southern California.
I would say our desire to be the Nordstrom of, retail
I love that.
is really what sets us apart. When you think about contemporaries in the space, what differentiates Wynn from MGM or Caesars and that sort of thing? It's that level of quality, that level of care and attention and assertiveness. That's the same sort of quality we want to accrete over time to our customers.
You expect, you know exactly what you're going to get when you go to one of those brands.
It's the same reason you can travel anywhere in the world and stay at a Four Seasons. It's because you know right away what you're getting, and that assuredness and that quality is what you're looking for. That's the same sort of category and profile that we want to fit in.
Yeah. So, and I would, be as bold as to say that you're at that level. People expect that from Pechanga. So now how do you continue to reinvent yourself so that those people are still excited about coming and getting to see new things and be wowed in a different way?
Honestly, it's like I telegraphed that question to you. We are right about to finalize our master plan for a grand reinvestment.
Oh, wow.
And we have a 10-year plan on this. So we're going to do a ton of reinvestment in our property, and a ton of reinvestment in our community, and a ton of reinvestment in our consumers. I mean,
anything you can give away?
I will say the first big project we're looking at right now is penthouse suites. That has always been the knock on tribal games, right? Is like, well, they're nice, but do they have the same quality of product that we see in Vegas or Bahamas or something like that?
Okay.
Do they cater to the luxury profile consumer the same, right? Yeah, they may be a good brand and a good quality, but is it just a flat tier of quality? Can they go up in tiers? And I think that's been our next goal, is to really ascend efforts to attract higher margin players and show we can offer something that astounds you and something that you would think and expect from probably another country.
Right. I mean, and you're in this incredible geography where you have some of the wealthiest people in the country that can come and take over that experience.
And we were so diligent on going to different places in Vegas, different places on the East Coast, different places in Los Angeles in the hospitality community. And I got to be honest, they were so gracious in welcoming us. It wasn't that adversarial, standoff thing. They were like, hey, they take pride in their properties as well. And I think there's a reciprocal aspect to it. So when we were admiring what they have, we would give feedback about what was going on or where they could improve or just, little insights. So we carried all that information. We put it together in a compilation and a design. And I've got to give it up to our designers and our team of architects. They have really met the challenge. I think over time, you're going to see a whole reinvestment, not just in the upper tier suites and hospitality side. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but also on the gaming floor. I mean, we're talking about a full-scale redesign on the gaming floor that is going to rival something you see in like Dubai or something. It's going to be that kind of luxurious quality. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, you shouldn't have to travel overseas to get that type of experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also think it's going to be hard tapped into our culture and our aesthetic where you really can't get that anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. You're essentially doing what you do with your clothing brand.
Yeah.
With the casino.
I think that's
so
well
there
said.
It is. It's like you're merging the two. You're infusing all parts of your life into making this experience be what it can be. Which
Absolutely.
Is very cool.
And lead with focus and quality forward.
Yeah.
Make sure that we retain that value of always putting the customer first and always surrounding them like they're part of our family.
Yeah. And it doesn't hurt that you get to travel the country and
Not at
experience
all. Not at all.
nice casinos. Are there other brands that you're comfortable saying like that you had a fantastic experience at when you were doing all of that research?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to the new property in Vegas. It's the one across the street from Resorts World. Blue Fountain, our Fountain Blue.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have such a magnificent property. There are elements of it that could be kind of airporty, but where they shine is in their quality and their the aspect of all their aesthetic is just so crispy. And their rooms are really nicely done. I really enjoy kind of the way they were structured. And when you get to their penthouse suites, I love the views and the way they made certain design choices. I thought it was really smart.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
To shift a little bit.
Sure.
I'd love to learn a little bit more just about you as a leader.
Okay.
Did you ever find that challenging?
Oh my God. I would be lying to you if I'm still not growing and learning as a leader. I was just having a conversation with somebody the other night about my leadership style.
Yeah.
And I think when I came on at the beginning of my tenure, I had this, urge to want to demonstrate my capability and
prove yourself
that I was smart enough to be there or that I was worthy enough to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, I've pulled back on that quite a bit, right? I find myself asking more questions. I find myself supplying less answers unless it's required. And I also want to make sure people can really be lifted up. I think sometime over the course of my tenure, in conjunction with my time at USC, I learned that being a real leader is about uplifting people. It's about how much can you extract out of your team? How much can you make them shine and you less the focal point? If the team is operating on all cylinders, then you're an amazing leader. If you're the one who is the only pinnacle that's holding this up, then you're not much of a leader. You could be doing this on your own, or you really should try to do something else.
Right.
But my role, at least as a leader, is to facilitate as much as I can. And here's a sports analogy.
Yeah, give it to me.
When you think of owners, right? Sports owners like Jerry Jones or something can be a bit too involved, and you don't get any accountability out of them because they're the owner, right? So when they dictate roster decisions and that sort of thing, no one can really say, well, that was Jerry's decision, so that's why we were unsuccessful. when you look at successful owners like Robert Kraft with the Patriots, the way he ceded a lot of authority and a lot of kind of experimental ideation with Bill Belichick, don't defer everything. You do quality checks, but you make sure that they're empowered enough and that your operational team is empowered enough to take chances. It's not unwieldy experimentation, it's measured experimentation. Okay, what did you learn on this? Where can I help you? What am I doing? What resources can I provide to backfill you? And then where did we miss the mark? My role should only be almost parental in the accountability such. The real role of any board of directors or any board is to change out the CEO if need be, right? So I need to make sure those leaders are empowered as much as I can.
Yep.
A big part of my job too, and I haven't even touched on this yet, is to build our sovereign wealth fund, which is where we do direct investing into a lot of different companies and sectors. So that's kind of what possesses a lot of my time at the moment. Yeah.
Is that as fulfilling as some of the other things that you get to do because you're helping other businesses, grow in the ways that you've been able to help Pechanga grow?
Honestly, I learn a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
I go into a lot of industries and sectors not fully knowing how they work exactly, but knowing how, if I can understand what the business model is, right? The way Warren Buffett would say is only invest in companies would make sense to you, right? How does the business model work? How does the margin factor in? How do they accrete value over time to their customers and their shareholders? And we have been so diligent about trying to map out different investment opportunities in different companies. And I learned so much from different leaders in those different industries that I don't know that you're siloed in gaming per se, but you definitely can learn a hell of a lot more in other industries about economies of scale and leadership and all that other stuff.
And I think it's cool, and I think it's a good lesson too to everyone listening. That sounds a bit like the advice here is don't wait to do things until you know everything. Right. You can learn as you go.
Absolutely.
And learning as you go can help you grow in the current things that you're doing as well.
And stay true to your values, right? As I mentioned earlier, leadership is doing the right thing even when it's hard. And I see a lot of crisis of leadership in a lot of different countries or companies and our country. But honestly, it's about maintaining the stick to those values. And there are a lot of times when shareholders or other investors will ask questions that put you in a position that makes you wonder if this is the right thing to do just because it's, it's fulfilling financially or it's quicker or whatever the situation is. But stay true to what reason you got there and why you're investing in this company or why you're doing this or why you're participating in it all. And I think that's probably going to steer you the right way more often than not. It won't always pay off, but at least you'll know that you did the right thing.
Yeah. I think there's also, with any good leader, a humbleness that they bring to know that they can't possibly know everything.
Right.
And so they're very good at spotting the talent that can bring in, those strengths of the weaknesses that they may have, or figure out the ways in which communication can be better through the team. You're very much a coach or a facilitator to all of them.
I honestly think so. I think a lot of good leaders kind of have that vibe of either a teacher, a professor, or a coach,
Yeah.
Ask the question and don't always expect to give an answer. I have a colleague who would laugh at this, but he talks about our two different types of communication, right? As pyramids. As another board member, John Blakis. And he always says he's the teacher mode where he talks like this. I'll give you all the story and I want you to arrive at the point. And Sean, you always talk like this, where you point first and then you give the detailing facts and that sort of thing.
And does he like his version better?
It's hard to say. I think that's his natural state. So yeah,
it's true, and it's so true. Like, not everyone, you can't do anything in a very specific framework, right? Like, it just doesn't work like that. I'm gonna, because of my personal experience, talk in a different way than you would, and it doesn't mean they both don't work. They just work in different ways.
They work in different ways. Yeah.
It's cool. It's really interesting. To ask you, because a lot of our folks that are watching are marketing professionals or they're within the marketing space, I'd love to learn just a little bit more about the traditional type of marketing that you all do, do you find yourself finding the most success within digital marketing?
Yeah.
Is it that we have to continually come up with more experiential types of ways to get people in? What do you find is kind of that right mixture to find the correct consumer for Pechanga?
Well, I would say traditional channels of marketing, not only have they gotten cheaper, but you can find a lot of value there, right? Billboards, mailers, that sort of thing. The question is, are they effective? Probably not. But as they wean out, the crowd is dissipating from them more, such that you can still get a good accretive value. The digital space, we know that's a hot commodity, but it's also an oversaturated commodity, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's trying to attune, how do we get the right audience? And anybody that's, 18 or 21 to 45, that's kind of your pure gap that you're trying to reach in terms of your TAM. Because those are the people who still care about buying retail product, who still care about going to meet up with friends and going to concerts, who have a lot of disposable income still and who aren't oriented towards, investing or saving a house or that sort of thing. They're just thinking about living their lives on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
So that's like the juiciest market, right? From that,
All right, thanks.
I think you have to pick your spots. And honestly, I think, as you said, experiential is really the golden ticket. When you think about hiring, for instance, right? When you get something in the mail, something standard, and you go, okay, I can choose it, but it feels nondescript. It's not meant for me.
Yeah.
If I get something now digital, you almost feel the same way. How many impressions was this sent to? How many, am I just now seeing this? Am I the 100, 400 person this is going
It's true.
to?
Yeah.
But if a friend told you about it and referred you to it, you have that connective base, right? All of a sudden, this means something. And I think that kind of exposure is so valuable. That's why experiential is so valuable.
Yep.
It's that contagious word of mouth socialization, that stickiness. That's what you really want to get at the core of. Now, how do you generate that without being too gimmicky? I think that's what the tension lies.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's that surprise and delight factor
Totally.
of all of this that needs to happen, or else it feels disingenuous.
Yeah. How do you generate participation without seeming, like a gimmick? I think that's really the focal point.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you for that. We've made it to the fast question round.
Oh boy. Okay.
So now we just like to have some fun, learn a little bit more about you personally.
Okay.
So I'm just going to kind of riff off some random questions.
Sure.
First thing that comes to your head, you give me that answer, okay?
All right.
So obviously you run the operations of your clothing line when you have free time.
Sure.
What's your go-to outfit when you're off duty and you're just feeling like yourself?
Lululemon pants and a t-shirt.
Love that. What is one tradition or ritual from your heritage that keeps you grounded no matter how hectic everything is?
There's a tree on our reservation that I like to visit, and it kind of grounds me.
That's amazing. Is there a name?
Yeah, it's a great oak tree.
Oh, cool. Love that. All right. You're having a dinner party. You can invite up to 3 fictional characters. Who are you picking, and what are you eating?
And what are we eating? Oh, boy. I didn't even think about the what are we eating component. Fictional characters. Dorian Gray.
Ah, nice.
Right? What's that Tyler Durden from Fight Club? I think those two would just be fantastic together. And I think the last one I'll go with, I don't know, Freddy Krueger.
Oh, wow.
I'm a horror
Keep
fan.
it interesting, yeah.
I'm a horror fan, so that.
You might not make it to what's on the menu.
Right?
And do you have a favorite meal that you might serve?
Sushi.
Oh,
Fantastic.
great answer.
Goes with the fingers.
Love it. Love, love, love. Okay. Is there something that, like your family, younger cousins, people in your community would say that you're cool for?
I think they think I'm cool. Honestly, I have no idea.
Is there something they would absolutely roast you about?
Oh my God. So many things they would roast me about. I think they would roast me about being a nerd, for sure.
Okay. What makes you nerdy?
The books that I gravitate to are business or psychological forward, so something like that.
Okay.
I read a ton of nonfiction, so that's usually where my head's at.
Love that. I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, I would fall asleep. I'm reading fiction and they're like weird fantasy.
Right?
Yeah. Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
No.
Carlo.
Oh, he just lost that bet?
Guy lost it. I tried to sneak it in there so that you didn't know that I was about to ask that question. I lost again. That's 3 in a row.
No.
Dang it. Why is it not okay?
Because you sweat, man.
But what if your feet are cold before you get into bed?
I've heard this. My trainer said that she cannot sleep without her socks on, and she's the only person I have ever heard say that.
My feet are always cold.
Yes.
I get into bed with socks on, but then they come off at some point in the middle of the night. I don't keep them on, but I hate cold feet.
I've heard this. I think it's also a gendered thing too in terms of blood flow.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I lost $5, but that's okay. I'll forgive you. If there are 3 businesses that people should be watching right now that you're just really loving what they're doing,
Oh my God.
or even specific people.
Okay. I think OpenAI is doing some really incredible stuff. I think Sam Altman is probably the businessman of our time. I really admire what he's doing. He doesn't always make the right decision in my mind, but I think that company and where he's taking it to is really going to be transformational. I'm really fascinated with some of the decision making that's happening in the gaming space. There's someone I'd like to shout out, Mark Morales, who's over in Boyd Gaming. I think she's one to watch. She's I think she transferred from Vegas and now she's in Pennsylvania.
Cool.
Really big up and coming star. And then I also think in terms of technology, one of my big go-tos is Professor Scott Galloway. I love watching him and all of his marketing podcasts and markets. I think he's super smart. Ed Elson as well.
That's awesome. And last question, in 10 years, where are we going to find you? What are you going to be doing?
That's a great question. I think, so my term, I still have another 3.5 years on my term, and I've essentially already told my colleagues and constituents that I'm going to do something else after this because that will sunset 8 years. That's not to say I won't always be involved with this brand in some way and somehow because I'm a tribal member, but I'm not sure. Hopefully something in business and tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like to travel? Will you be traveling anywhere? Cool.
Oh man, I'm traveling in Hawaii coming up. Fun. And then as a glutton for punishment, I'm spending my summer at Stanford this summer and doing a mini master's from the executive leadership program.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Is it really an important part of your ethos that you're always learning?
Always.
Yeah.
Always learning. I'm a strategy nerd, psychological, game theory type dude, and I'm always trying to figure out how I can be better.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the most important things that anybody can do. Just continue to learn.
I think that's also another thing my cousins would roast me for. So
that you're always going back to school.
I'm always going back to school.
Doing more homework.
Always.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sean, for being here. That was really awesome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Is there anywhere that people can find you if they want to follow along with you and your career and Pechanga in general?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Sean Vasquez at Pechanga. You can also come to Pechanga. We have some great promos going on. Fantastic golf course. And if you want to meet me, you can shoot me a link on LinkedIn and I'll reply.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.